Lady from Missouri, Ms. Bush, is now recognized.
St. Louis, and I thank you, Madam Chair, for convening this important hearing today. The state and local funding in the American Rescue Plan included critical targeted investments that have empowered our local leaders with the resources they need to save lives. The American Rescue Plan helped deliver over $700 million to our St. Louis region, an unprecedented and much needed infusion of direct assistance during this pandemic and economic crisis. These funds are proving crucial in helping to alleviate existing injustices such as gun violence, economic inequality, and access to healthcare that the pandemic exacerbated. Moreover, I see the success of these investments as a blueprint for how this committee can work with local governments and advocates to broaden our public investments in the many crises of our day. Judge Moore, you frequently refer to the Recovery Fund's support for counties as critical. How does providing these critical resources to counties empower them to respond to emergencies?
Well, thank you. In many of America's counties, these dollars are being utilized to fund communication systems, 911 systems, and other tools to be able to respond to emergencies. We've already talked about public health and how additional facilities are being added in programs to deal with the health emergency component of it. Overall, I would say that once again, many of these funding needs were on the radar for capital plans or other funding requests, but probably would not have been met as quickly, or in many times not at all, without the assistance and the flexibility that counties received across the country. But I do believe it was critical. It was critical time, and it did create jobs and provide resources for local governments.
Yes, it did. Thank you. One of the many things I am most proud of in the way our recovery fund was dispersed is that the city of St. Louis, under the leadership of our mayor, Tashara Jones, engaged in an extensive community consultation process that considered over 2,500 public comments, another crucial step of the process that takes time. I'm incredibly proud of the way St. Louis is pursuing evidence-based, community-informed expenditures, including $500 checks in direct cash that are going to our community members that need it the most, aid to help boost vaccination rates, funding to prevent evictions, and investments that have helped to promote safer communities. Now, I believe we must build on the success of this committee's contribution to addressing this pandemic and make similar investments in ongoing emergencies, including the climate crisis. The federal government should also support states, tribes, territories, and local governments in delivering climate and environmental justice investments, just as we did in responding to this pandemic. My Green New Deal for Cities bill, HR 2644, it would apply a Green New Deal framework to do just that. Mayor Woodards, do cities around the country need additional federal resources to appropriately combat the climate crisis?
Simple answer, yes. We do. Cities, towns, and villages have been leading on climate action, as you know, for years. And because local leaders are the first responders, and we are seeing the impacts of climate change every day in our communities. We've also been calling for a federal partner in these efforts to enact national policy that will support local efforts and to provide resources and assistance to communities, including financial assistance. And we are so pleased that the bipartisan infrastructure bill makes considerable investments in building communities' resilience, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and investing in renewable energy.
Thank you. Ms. Sharp, should this committee make the climate justice investments in every Native American nation in this country, as we do in our bill and as we did for COVID-19 funding?
Yes, absolutely. Not only are tribal nations disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, we are also disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis. My nation, the Crown Nation, is currently under 5 states of emergency. one for the pandemic, one for sea level rise, one for a landslide that potentially will take out Highway 101, the only access road to our community. So yes, when we convene our board of directors and we hear reports all across Indian country, we are facing the climate crisis. We are on the front lines, and we are so very grateful not only for this investment, but the future investments that are on the horizon. We absolutely need it.
Thank you. I look forward to working with each of you to fight environmental racism using the most successful frameworks we use to combat the pandemic, close partnership and resource support for states, tribes, territories, and local governments. Thank you, and I yield back.